Hey everybody. So today in this video, we're going to talk about entertainment. Okay, entertainment at the Disneyland Resort. And I have a very special guest with me today. His name is Sam Carter. He's an experienced designer. He's worked with Disneyland Entertainment, and he's an artist for Wonderground over at Downtown Disney. I want to welcome you, Sam. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. How are you?
My pleasure, man. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. So I really wanted to bring you on and kind of pick your brain a little bit because you're very knowledgeable in regards to the entertainment aspect of Disneyland. And I wanted to kind of go over that with you today.
Of
Before
course.
we do that, though, you just started a YouTube channel, Car Tar Sauce Theater. And if you can tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that before we get started.
Well, yeah. Once the quarantine started and we have all this time on our hands, I figured, like, what am I going to do? And I've had this thing I wanted to do for like 20 years, where I've had this collection of videotapes that I haven't even looked at, since I shot it. And I'm like, well, might as well throw it all together. And I figured it might be neat since I talk a lot about the parade department, and I worked in parades for 10 years. And I even, growing up watching them, I'm like, well, let's just kind of make a neat little consistently branded look for each parade. And I think I have 10 of them up now. I just uploaded Spectrum Magic of all things last night, and it's kind of cool to go back and look at it. It's pretty much a time machine. These trips, like, it's my first trip to Disney World. I'm looking at this tape. I'm like, why do I remember all this? Like, I know what's going to be said now, and it's just crazy. It's really cool. So I figured other people might want to watch it too, and it's almost like a history lesson too. For example, light magic. It's such an urban legend. Like, what? Did that really happen? Did they really spend that much money? Did it really just go away? Yes. And then the urban legend is that it was terrible, right? Oh my gosh, it was a total flop. And, if I had a nickel for every time someone said light tragic and thought they were the biggest comedian, I'm like, yeah, real original. But that's the thing, is like, well, see for yourself. Watch it. I videotaped the very last weekend of it, knowing that it was going to be a little bit different next year. Yeah, it was called the Milan Parade, right? So it's a way different following year. But like, if you watch the last weekend of it is Labor Day 1997. The crowds are roaring, the pack, all the lights are working, the choreography's nailed down, like everything was just firing on all cylinders. You're gonna tell me that sucks? Like, that was actually pretty cool. Yeah, there's a good story leading up to that, right? But I don't know, I like people to kind of like see for themselves as best you can, even if it's like a grimy VHS tape. So it's not super HD, but it's still, you get the idea of it. But it's kind of cool to look back at all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to link up above his channel. I want you guys all to check him out and subscribe to him. He has a lot of great stuff on there. I think you even have like the Eureka Parade from DCA, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing, is I was working in parades at the time. I started at Disneyland in 1995. I wanted to start earlier, but I was too young. They wouldn't hire me. So I got a job at Knott's Berry Farm as a sweeper in 94. So that's why I have a real connection to Knott's Berry Farm as well. And then I was old enough to work at Disneyland, so I got a job as a float driver. Started off with Lion King Parade and Electrical Parade in 95. And that was just unreal. And it's amazing that the group of friends that I have from then, I'm still buddies with. So and then it's going through high school and college. I didn't even need a fraternity going to college at Cal State Fullerton. Like, my fraternity was the float drivers, like show services. That was just an insane trip, and it was like the best time ever.
Wow.
So you're working with closely with like 100 people on each show. You just become really tight with everybody, and then you really care about your product. You care about the parade. You care about that opening day. You care when you have to close a parade. It's actually pretty sad. Like something you do every day. And even like, you kind of like hate it sometimes. Sometimes you're like, oh, I gotta go work Lion King Parade. And now you look back at it like, you had to work Lion King Parade? What are you talking about? That's the best parade ever.
Yeah.
And even something that you do every day on a grind, you still kind of like, I don't want to say you take it for granted, but you don't realize how amazing it is. And it's like, there's a line from The Office. I don't know if you watch The Office, but Andy Bernard says, I wish you knew it was the good old days while you were still in them. I'm like, that's how I feel about parades. It's like, man, that was the good old days. That was awesome. And then you unearth all this video footage from it because you're proud of what you do. You want to take a day off and go videotape it. You're documenting it, even for posterity or whatever. You want to have it. And I'm bummed because I feel like I stopped that once I left the parade department. And I left in '06. What's cool about it is I worked in parades for a decade. Man, I did Electrical Parade, Lion King, Light Magic, Hercules, Mulan, Parade of the Stars. Ran for way too long. And then I knew like I needed to get into the art department. That was my goal the whole time. And I was trying to get everyone's attention. I couldn't really do it, so I ended up painting. I pitched a mural in the parade building, and they agreed to it. Yeah, you could paint it, you know. So I did some research. I got to go to the Disney archives, look at some old reference photos.
Wow.
So I actually met Dave Smith back then, and he was showing me what
Nice.
he had. And that's when it's funny to watch the prop culture stuff, because I'm like, yeah, I remember seeing the snow globe. That was there, you know. So I did all this research, and based off of that and a few other things, I got to become an art specialist in TDA. So my goal was to be in parades until the 50th. And then I got to be in charge of the drivers for Block Party Bash, if you ever saw that.
I loved Block Party Bash.
Me too.
It's
So,
a
like,
guilty pleasure.
Oh, it's so awesome. And then so from Block Party, I went into the art department where I got to art direct some events for Disneyland.
Awesome. Now you mentioned earlier Light Magic, and it gets a lot, like you said, it gets a lot of heat from fans. People say, "Oh, it's terrible."
People love to hate it.
They love to hate it, and you know what? I'm with you, man. There's a lot of good in that parade, and the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
I still listen to it to this day.
You know,
it's phenomenal.
The show was far from perfect, right?
Yeah.
But then, like, you see, there's some stuff that might come and go, and you're like, why doesn't that get the heat? You know what I mean? Because it was popular to kind of trash something. You know, it was
Yeah.
the beginning of the internet. It was kind of like a mob mentality. People were so pissed off that they charged to see a sneak preview of it, but then it turned out to be a rehearsal because it just wasn't ready yet. Mistakes were made. They should have canceled it. They should have credited back, you know, the money that people paid to see this. I have a good friend who works City Hall that night. He's like, he still has PTSD from that, you know.
God
And
bless him.
I know, we talk a lot about it. I'm like, man, why don't we record this? This is like serious history of the park. You know, the people were that fired up, and it was almost like the nail in the coffin. No one gave it a chance after that.
Wow.
But having said that, this is like, you're going to premiere Light Magic the very next year after you just convinced the entire world that Main Street Electrical Parade is the best thing ever. Come see it before it goes.
Right.
So you're going to be beat over the head with like Main Street Electrical Parade is the best thing ever. And then they're going to take it away and give you like something completely different. It had no chance.
It had no chance. It's following footsteps, legendary, iconic footsteps. I mean, the Main Street Electrical Parade is a parade unlike no other. And I really, as much as I think the parade is now outdated and its time has come to retire, it's still one of those. It's still one of those legendary parades that will live in infamy. You know,
for sure.
It's incredible, and to follow that act is so incredibly difficult. Like if Light Magic were to premiere, like say today, I think it would have fared much better.
Well, this sounds like a cliche, but it was ahead of its time. You know, a lot of people said, "Who are these random pixies? I don't care about them." But you go 10 years later, Fairies was like the biggest IP to come out of Disney. So if that just kind of was kind of tied together a little bit more, weighted a little bit, there's so much weird history because, you know, there was something about the opening of Tomorrowland and having some kind of tie-in to Light Magic to that, where like the Pixies weren't Pixies yet, they were something else, and it was supposed to be like a tie, and it almost reminded me of the Spectrum Men from Spectrum Magic, which is worse than the Pixies, right?
Yeah.
So there's such a story there, you know. It's so interesting. I think people that actually care about Disney history, I think they're intrigued by it. But yeah, there's a lot to be told there.
Definitely. It's an interesting parade, and I think it just it kind of premiered at the wrong time.
Oh, for sure.
It was too soon after the Main Street, and
there
was a lot of
people didn't necessarily want a show. You know, I think they wanted a traditional light parade. You know, but I think it's almost like it was a palate cleanser. Like if you're just to kind of imagine, I mean, if you're going to do a new electrical parade, well, I don't know if the tech was really there yet, right? Fast forward 20 years later, then we get Paint the Night. Oh my God, right? When I first saw Paint the Night, I'm like, okay, I've wanted a new light parade since Light Magic. And then we got Paint the Night. I'm like, yeah, that was worth the wait. I waited 20 years to see that, and it was worth it. Like, you can't really say that about a lot of things. But I will say now that I have kids, I remember having I remember vividly sitting on my dad's shoulders watching electrical parade go down Main Street. I have a photo of it. Like it's a serious, like one of those core memories from Inside Out. Like there is that memory right there, and it's a good one. And fast forward, I was kind of like, oh, they're bringing electrical parade back. Oh, what a panic button kind of thing, you know? Well, the next thing you know, I'm on the parade route. My son's on my shoulders. Drum and Train's going by, and he's flipping out because Goofy is driving it. And I'm
Oh,
like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it. So I can't hate on it, but
yeah.
I'm glad they take care of it. I'm glad it's stored when it's not being used. I'd much rather see Paint the Night on the route. If you really want to get crazy, because I like to think of California Adventure for like the new stuff, Disneyland for the classic stuff, and kind of split it that way.
Yeah.
Give me a summer with Electrical Parade in Disneyland and Paint the Night at California Adventure. Mind's blown.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Give people the choice to see both. I mean, I know
Yeah.
crowds are rough, and obviously now it's a certain weird time in history that, well, maybe not yet, right? But like when
Yeah.
hopefully we're all better, that'd be kind of an outstanding thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I agree. That would be absolutely fantastic. Now, I do want to ask you, because you have such a storied history with the entertainment department and everything. 65 years of history at Disneyland with parades and shows and everything. What is your favorite? What's the one parade or show that stands out as still the creme de la creme, the best of the best? What's your favorite?
That's an easy one. It's an easy one.
What's that?
Lion King celebration, of course.
There you go.
Yeah, Lion King was like the perfect combination of music. The movie was amazing. The floats were gorgeous. The story was like so much heart, like the Circle of Life. Are you kidding me? But then the performers, the drummers, the cast, it was just literally, and plus I get chills when I think about it, right? It was such a unique time. I didn't open it because it opened in '94 with the movie. And I came in the following March, so it was already going, but I was already a fan of it, and got to be a part of that. And I'm like, pinch me, is this real? Like I've been watching parades my whole life, and now I'm like driving these floats, and
wow.
And like I said, like the friendships that I made there, it was so tight, such a tight group that every 5 years there's a reunion. The cast still gets together.
Really?
In fact, last summer we had our 25th anniversary of opening it. And
cool.
we rented out the top floor of, I almost called it Arriba, Tortilla Joe's at Downtown Disney. We rented the top floor out, and I'd say about, like, if people were still living, they were there. And some of the people, you haven't seen forever. I didn't get to go to the 20th, but I went to the 25th one, and it was just nuts, man. You're picking up conversations from 25 years ago. Like you see someone and you knew like the little things that you used to kind of say back and forth every day, because we do this thing every day. There's 4 show stops a day, right? And like you see someone, and it just all comes back. So the friendships are there. It was just an amazing time. I have some video that reminds me. It's on my phone. I should kind of tweet it out. But we had a projection, a TV going on, so like we were kind of showing videotape from back then. It's just, so to answer your question, Lion King, no doubt. Nothing's ever compared.
That parade, and I'm also old enough to remember that parade and experience it. And I feel so blessed to have experienced it, because that parade was so unlike anything else. Like it was so, like when you, like it immersed you completely in that world.
It was moving.
And
it wasn't uncommon to see tears out of the guests when you like leave. I mean, it was, how many parades you could joke that light magic made people cry, but this is for a different reason. And speaking of like, people getting emotional watching parades, when we were getting ready to close Lion King, I think we all realized how special it was, but we were so distracted because we were already rehearsing Hercules, which was the replacement, and we were deep into rehearsals for Light Magic. So we're so distracted with opening these 2 huge shows that summer in '97. Meanwhile, we're kind of saying goodbye to Lion King, and we weren't focused on saying goodbye. But the way for me, it hit me when I'm like, oh my God, this is the very last Lion King parade. This is nuts. I'm not even exaggerating. I'd say more than half the cast was crying the entire parade.
Oh my gosh.
Tears. You see gazelles going down the street, bawling. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. And then you look at the guests. The guests are crying. They're holding signs. It's like, and that's when you realize, like, oh, this was something special. This was pretty cool. That's why when I maybe a few months later, maybe a year later, I forget the timeline. It's all a blur. But Lion King's been done for a little bit, but we still had the floats in the warehouse. And I remember being called for this random shift. So I went in there, and my shift was to drive the Lion King floats onto a truck. And then the truck went cross country to Animal Kingdom, which wasn't open yet. Because
Oh,
they
wow.
used the same floats for the Lion King, the Festival King show at Animal Kingdom. And so from that, like every time I go to Animal Kingdom, I have to go pay my respects. I'm like, yep, there's Rainforest Float, there's Bull Elephant, and it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So luckily, even though it's gone, you can still check it out over there.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And it's really cool how you guys, like you mentioned, how you guys are really very close in the entertainment department and you guys have
Right.
contact. It's almost like high school reunions almost,
Big
you know,
time.
where you meet for years and decades later. And I think
Yep.
that's really cool. You guys have all kept that bond and that
I think
camaraderie.
so. And Facebook helps. And there's like lately now more than ever, there's a group for each parade on Facebook.
Oh, really?
More private. You could actually have people post stuff that's a little bit more. You wouldn't want it to get stuff out there. Like we always try not to post rehearsal backstage photos, and that, we don't want to get that out there. And I'm even really careful when I try to post stuff. I don't want to I want to keep the integrity of everything. So I'm really careful with what I post because I got a lot of backstage stuff. But at the same time, I want to get as much stuff out there, and I try to kind of like, okay, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. It's as long as it keeps the integrity. That's what's important for me. But there's all these groups that still stick together on Facebook. It's
Wow.
awesome.
That's incredible. And with Disneyland Entertainment, that's the one thing that gets me. Like I can go on Pirates, I can go on Indiana Jones, I can go on, but you know what? The goosebumps, the tears, it
Hmm.
comes from the entertainment department. It
For
comes
sure.
from those parades. It comes from those fireworks shows. That
Right.
gets me
Well,
right
live
there every time.
live performances. It's an art. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in terms of the entertainment department, like what are your feelings of the current state? So
Well, currently, it's pretty
currently,
depressing.
so currently, your feelings. Okay, so you feel like right now we're kind of in like a drought
Well, we're
of.
just waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, if hopefully when we look back at all this, I think, how do you even like discuss that really? It's I think people are going to be so happy to get back to it, right? Not only just for work, but like just to be social in person again. And yeah, things are going to be different, probably not as much hugs or, the masks are going to be different, but I don't think it's going to be forever. I'm still chugging along. I'm doing my own business now with Carter Creative, designing stuff, and I'm still designing Christmas for this year for some things, right? There's a lot of design projects that are still happening. Like, I don't think the whole world has stopped. Like you said, people work from home. Well, we've always been working from home, right? We've been doing this for a while. We're used to it. And yeah, it's slowed down a little bit and the conversations are changing, and people are timid. And I mentioned this in a meeting I had yesterday about some design projects I'm on. I think that hopefully after 9/11, um, that Christmas was really special. People like needed Christmas, right? Like it was, even Halloween was way too soon and it was like kind of gory. And I
Yeah.
think we got to cancel Halloween after 9/11, right? In a way. But when Christmas came along, it was like needed. Like people needed to heal, and I think that's what's going to happen as long as there's not like a round two of this thing, and we don't know, right? But
Yeah.
I think people are going to like really like need Christmas at that time, and luckily for me, I'm still designing a lot of Christmas stuff for like different industry type stuff out there. Um,
Awesome.
so yeah, and then Wonderground, we're still chugging away at some artwork for that. Um, there's just there's stuff still moving behind the scenes, right? Even though no one's in the park right now, and most of the people have been furloughed, there's still a skeleton team there keeping stuff moving back there. So when it does open, even Knott's Berry Farm, John Storbeck, the VP of Knott's, just sent out a nice email saying, "Hey, as soon as we open, we're gonna have this and this and this and this and this." Like
Awesome.
stuff's moving, right? And
Yeah.
then with Disneyland, it's the same way. From what it seems like, at least here in Anaheim, um, we're just waiting. No one knows. People I talk to, like, you can't help but to ask, like, hey, what do you think? everyone's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, man. This is just weird.
Yeah.
Um, we all make our guess, and we all make our guess of when we think we'll be back. And even when this first started happening, I'm like, well, it's not going to be 2 weeks. Remember that?
Yeah, definitely not.
But I don't know. I feel optimistic about July. I don't know why. I know things are going to be different. I think if you follow the pattern of Shanghai, well, and then now Disney Springs, okay, well, maybe our downtown Disney will open. I'm just total speculation, and I probably shouldn't. I'm just hoping that July, August, would be nice. And then my only thing is too, like with all this downtime, I told myself I want to do all these different things like creatively. I want to do this. I want to do this. One of those things was the videos, so I'm chugging away at that. But I have other projects I want to do. I just don't want to get to that point where we're released into the wild, and I'm like, man, I didn't do all that stuff I wanted to do.
Right.
So I'm to that point where I'm like, I got my list. I'm like, okay, I did that. I did this. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm with you. I really hope July Disneyland opens. It would be, in my opinion, it would be really sad for the
I
park to
know.
be closed during its
It hurts.
birthday. It would hurt.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned recently that can you imagine if the 50th or something major? Like
Oh yeah.
65th it's big, but it's not like the 50th, right?
Right.
Um, Poor Knott's on their 100th.
Oh, I know.
Just shuddered. But they just said that they're going to really push the whole celebration back. They're not going to just forget about it,
Good.
which is fine.
Good. Yeah, that's important. That's important. And yeah, I feel for Florida. 'Cause they're kind of right now in the middle. Well, not in the middle, but they're prepping for their 50th. And these anniversaries are so important because they only come
Yeah.
around once. You're not going
Right.
to have another 50th for Walt Disney World. So I really hope JPEG and Iger and all the powers that be, they really take that into account and they still go full force with these
Yeah.
anniversaries and give
Well,
them a
luckily,
huge party.
their anniversary is what, October 1st?
Yeah.
But next year, that's a good amount of time away. Like they want to start the celebrations a year in advance. Hopefully this thing, who knows, but hopefully this thing settles down a little bit, and then I think the 50th will be okay. But the downside is with construction stopping, I don't know if that's true or not. You hear some things are moving forward and some things aren't. Hopefully everything's done in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. I hope so. Now, in terms of like current entertainment and the way they kind of craft their stories with the entertainment and everything, what would you like to see more or less of, in terms of the approach for these shows, with all your experience and with the 90s, which was, I think I agree with you, was a golden era of parades and shows. What would you like current Disney? What lessons would you like them to take from?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I recall from the 90s when you had your Aladdin parade, your Lion King parade, your Hercules parade, your Mulan parade. When they ever announced a new parade was coming and it was based off the new movies, people would roll their eyes, scoff. They're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go see that. It's just a commercial. It's just a commercial, right? And it actually had you'd hear it once in a while, it have a kind of bad rap. It almost got picked on for that. Like, it's just a commercial. Sorry, Lion King Parade is not just a commercial. Do you know what I mean?
Not
Like,
at
there's
all.
some stuff, it's just these amazing characters. Why wouldn't you use that, right? I wish we did it more. I feel like, if I remember correctly, we almost got a Tarzan parade, and they ended up doing the Treehouse instead, which, thanks to Tony Baxter and a few others, like, I think that saved the Treehouse, right? They might have removed it if not for the Tarzan Treehouse overlay. So
Wow, I didn't
imagine
know
not
that.
having it there, right? So, like, if you had to pick and choose between a parade that might run 2 years or saving the Treehouse for another 30 years, what do you pick? So, and plus those parades were pretty hefty and a lot more detailed and ornate than like a normal non-movie parade because it had a marketing budget to it, just like Guardians of the Galaxy or the Incredible Coaster. That had a healthy budget because the studios was paying for a lot of that to make it extra good because it was maybe a commercial, right? It's getting
Yeah.
people pumped for the next Guardians movie or the Incredibles 2. So having said that, and then you have a decade after that that did not do the movie parade, because can you imagine if we did though? Would you have a Treasure Planet parade and a Atlantis parade? I mean, I know that those things have their fans, but I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, don't want to do that. I wouldn't mind seeing a Lilo and Stitch parade. And if you have a good feeling about a movie coming out, you could do it. So I don't know. I think if you had a solid gut feeling about a movie, I think it'd be cool to go back to that to kind of like help promote the film. Even so with Mulan, Mulan came out, I believe, a couple weeks before the movie. And that was like, what a commercial. You're going 2 weeks, people are getting like into the characters, getting into the movie and intrigued by it. They're like, oh, maybe I will go see that movie. So you never really know if it really helps people go to the theaters to see the movie, but I'd like to see a mix of the movie parades come back, but not like formula, not like, okay, every movie that comes out gets I think you got to be selective. Like, I think if you have a gut feeling and test audience, or like Frozen, Frozen's
Right.
I could see that
It's
having a parade,
gonna-
not an afterthought. But the way they are, they're very cautious about spending money on stuff that's not proven successful yet, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I love about Disney Entertainment, right, is I think Disney is at its best when it does something that's kind of simple, but like there's not a whole lot going on with it, but it just hits the right way. Like, and I'll give you two examples. World of Color, that one scene with the Little Mermaid, where all they have, there's not a bunch of technology thrown at you at once. It's just the blue fountains rising.
So pretty.
It's so beautiful, and it kind of does this, and the music, and that's really all there is to it. And that whole segment or that whole scene in that show hits me so hard, and there's not a whole lot to it. There's not a whole lot of technology packed into that one segment, but it just hits the right way.
I know you're saying exactly. The best parts of World of Color are not the song. Like, you hear Part of Your World, but there's like when they're done with the projection part and they're done with like Sebastian singing Under the Sea or Ariel singing Part of Your World, it's almost formula at that part where it goes to the instrumental and then the fountains get to be the fountains, right? That's the best parts. Colors of the Wind, right? So like, it's not when Pocahontas is singing, it's the instrumental part afterwards when the fountains are just doing their thing and you're like, wow. Plus that whole show is a grand slam. I love it too, the original version. But just the play on words, it's called World of Color, and then you have Ariel singing Part of Your World, and then you have Colors of the Wind. Okay, colors, World of Color, like it's just really well done and thought out. And people could critique everything. Everyone has an opinion, right? And then some people were like, oh, it doesn't really have a story. I'm like, there's flow though. There's a beautiful flow that goes from this to this to this to this. What are you talking about? Like, and people are just gonna say what they want to say. But as long as you go and you enjoy it, awesome. If you don't like it, well, go see Fantasmic. It's okay,
Right. Yeah, exactly. We have Fantasmic, which is basically the more theatrical, story-driven show. And World of Color is more like Fantasia on water, where it's just a lot of visuals and music and things of that nature. And I love it for that. And the simplicity is so. I just love when they go simplistic like that. Another example actually would be over at Disneyland for their 50th anniversary fireworks. Remember Dreams Come True with the pirate scene. That whole scene where all they did was shoot those, and you probably know the official name for them, but I don't know, the comet-looking fireworks over the castle and pretended they were cannonballs. Such a simple thing,
right?
But, dang, I mean, it just hit so hard, and it was such a brilliant concept. And there wasn't a whole lot to that scene, just like the mermaid scene, but the way it was executed was just so good,
That show was so fun. The 50th was amazing. With I went to Tokyo Disneyland that year to visit, and I met some friends out there, and I remember these folks came from Tokyo Disneyland to see our 50th, and I remember I was watching that show with them, and by that point I've already seen the show like dozens of times. Watching that show with them, they're bawling at that show. Like, they were completely crying their eyes out. And I think that's one of the things that they flipped out the most. They're like, oh my gosh, they're shooting. And obviously the Matterhorn doesn't look like a pirate ship, right?
No,
but it's just like with the audio and just like the cannon launches and stuff, like it was just, that was that was a home run for sure. But to answer your question too, what I would like to see now, Hyperion Theater. There's Aladdin was great. It had a very long run, right? And then of course Frozen's going to come in, and if they use that theater space for like whatever next on Broadway, that's killer. That's great. Um, Moana was so amazing, and Moana is one of my favorite films, at least since Lion King. Like Moana's pretty great. I would love to see a Moana show in the Hyperion. I obviously I haven't heard anything talked about, but I just from a fan taking my kids, knowing how much my kids watch Moana, I think it'd be really great to see that in Hyperion, or even like during Christmas. Let's do a Mickey's Christmas, like a full-scale Broadway version of Mickey's Christmas Carol, and you have those really great screens in the back. You could utilize that, and if I don't know what's still there as far as like the carpet track on the ceiling, but you know my mind goes crazy. I keep thinking of ideas. I can't help it, but knowing that you had that technology in there of the flying carpet, I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have Jimmy Cricket and Scrooge flying over there for Mickey's Christmas Carol. Like you could do some really neat stuff like that, and I like to see them utilize the Hyperion for more stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I wish they would, and I hope that theater. I hope that theater is safe. Not to digress too far, but I hope that theater is safe because I worry about it. You know, because of the proximity to Avengers Camp. I
think it's safe, especially now.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
And it's a good thing to have at the end of the Hollywood Boulevard there, like that theater, that look. It's one of the things from DCA 1.0 that has stood the test of time. That whole backdrop facade, people still take their pictures in front of it. You know, people still like looking down Hollywood Boulevard and seeing that. Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere. I haven't heard, but I'm sure at one time they might have thought about what if this whole area was something, right? But you know, that's what Blue Sky is. They're going to think about anything. Nothing should really be sacred. Almost not,
right?
Like sacred. Like everything could be like touched. You know, Walt didn't build Hyperion Theater. You know what I mean? Like there's things like that could be. You know, if there's a better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are your thoughts to kind of get into some of the more recent stuff? What are your thoughts in regards to I don't know if you've seen it in person because it kind of premiered right before this whole COVID shutdown. But what are your thoughts on the Magic Happens parade over at Disneyland?
Oh, I'm glad I got a chance to see it. You know what? I'm friends with the designers of it, you know, and I'm friends with the cast, and I've been talking to them this whole time along the way. So I've been hearing like trinkets and stuff about like how it's going and stuff. And first of all, I'm a huge fan of the music. I think the floats are beautiful. But personally, as a creative, I always think I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to do this or add this. You know, I don't want to say it feels short, but it felt like there's, you know, it feels like there's an opening unit, 3 big floats, and then the finale, right? I wouldn't mind seeing like a 4th or maybe 5th unit in it. And I don't think I necessarily wanted to see a Frozen unit. I get that Frozen 2 just came out and it's Frozen. But I don't know. I would have liked to seen something from Wreck-It Ralph. You know, there's new modern classics that would have been really cool that we don't really use. A Wreck-It Ralph float would have been cool, especially with Wreck-It Ralph 2. I think Sugar Rush has such a cool theme. You could really do some neat stuff with like cars, not cars. I don't want cars, but like the Sugar Rush cars. You know, you could do some fun stuff with that. I like parades that you see characters that you've never seen before.
Right.
And if that meant, you know, this is me going off Blue Sky, but like if you say you had a Wreck-It Ralph unit, it'd be really great to have a costume character for each of the Sugar Rush people. You know, like stuff that you haven't seen before. If it's a character that you've seen in the park forever, that's cool. But like, you know how people flipped out when they saw the Cheshire Cat in the Halloween parade last year?
Yeah.
We've never seen the Cheshire Cat, you know, at least in our recent memory. I think they tried to do it a long time ago. And they had it in Paris once. But yeah, like when you introduce new characters, like I wouldn't mind seeing a Long Lost Friends parade where it's like the whole parade is full of characters that you've never met before. Something like that would be really neat. But to answer your question, Magic Happens, I think is great.
Yeah. No, it's a fun parade, and I agree with you actually. As an advocate for Frozen, I loved Frozen 1, and I love Frozen 2 actually. I love the franchise.
I need to give it another chance. I didn't get through it.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where like I support the IP or the franchise or whatever, but it's like I feel like like I agree with you. You know, with this parade, I think there was an opportunity to really go with something different. We have Frozen in literally every
Mhm.
single show and attraction, at least since 2013. You know, it's everything. Every show or attraction has. I mean, every show or parade has some sort of Frozen
A
representation.
Little Mermaid. Everything is it's formula. Little Mermaid. You're gonna see under the sea. Even in Magical Map, it's like,
Right.
okay, we get it. How many times are we gonna see under the sea? But
Right.
it's creative. Creatively, they do find new ways to do it. But um, there's some other classics, especially like there's some. It's almost like a flashback to like when Hercules first came out. It didn't seem like a hit. In the '90s, like Parade
Yeah.
was fun, but the movie didn't really kind of hold. Didn't really have the wheels of like a Frozen, right? It wasn't that. It wasn't a Lion King. But now I feel like it's such a nostalgia factor that people are going crazy for Hercules again.
Yeah.
Even though we did have a parade already for that, like, what if you did pick one of those things? What if you did have like a throwback to some '90s scene that we never had? What if you did have a Tarzan float?
Right.
Luckily, if anything out of Magic happens, we got a killer Moana unit and we got a killer Coco unit. Thank you. Right? Those two
Yeah.
units and the way they mix the music in that new way, it's so great.
It was great, and to their credit too, they also added Sword in the Stone,
That
which,
was nice.
yeah, I mean, we haven't seen that.
Right. Right.
That movie represented in a long time.
Right. And those three little units were really neat. Maybe if anything, if the budget was tight, which the budget will always be tight, um, if you kind of sprinkled in a few more of those in between, maybe the Moana and Coco unit, you could have maybe done that too. But you know what? I wasn't in the room when the room where it happened, right? I wasn't there for that, and I'm sure that maybe there was and it was cut. We don't know. But luckily, what we did get out in the street is a brand new parade. Anytime that happens is killer because sometimes at Disneyland the parades just run for too long. Like
Yeah.
Parade of the Stars ran forever, and it wasn't that great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And then
Totally.
you have these really really great parades that only have like a 2-year run. You're like,
Right.
why did Eureka only run 2 years, but Parade of Stars ran for so long? So anytime they spend the money on entertainment is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of feel bad sometimes for Disney World because they don't get a new parade as often as we do, right? Because they have a different crowd, right? They have more international tourists where we have more local, so they got to keep the entertainment more fresh. And I don't know if it has anything to do with being LA or Orange County. There's more entertainment industry, so there's more performers. It just it just seems like a better fit for everything as far as shows and entertainment that come and go at Disneyland. Like that's more of an investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We definitely do have. I feel like our entertainment here in Anaheim is a step up in many ways from what Florida gets. We get it more often, like you said, and like I think the proximity to Hollywood and
Hmm.
I think helps. For sure,
Definitely
like you mentioned. So
the talent pool,
exactly,
and it's not a
exactly.
slam against Florida. I just think it's more condensed, more performers. So you get more of a cream of the crop. I think out here.
Yeah, I will give credit though to Orlando for Happily Ever After. I've
So
never
good.
seen it in person, but even on YouTube, I get
It's really
goosebumps
good.
watching it.
Yeah, it's really well done. Yeah, the projection mapping has come so far, and they're so good at the story. Like it's almost like, oh, another projection show. No, Happily Ever After is really good, and part of that is because you have these new modern classics with Moana. There's Moana. That
Yeah,
she's her segment's really great. Uh, yeah, that is a good one. And as far as the castle goes, what a neat thing to project on.
right,
Our castle's pretty special too at Disneyland, but maybe not ideal. I don't think Walt was thinking about projection mapping when they made it, right? But
right.
then you look at Shanghai's castle, projection mapping was definitely thought of when they made it because if you look at all like the flat segments on the front, like it's almost like a movie screen. So
Yeah,
that's when it's a fine line between what's going to dictate the architecture of this castle. We're going to dictate that by a projection mapping thing. So it's really interesting if you look at that. Even like the Hong Kong expansion castle, there's a
right.
lot of flat areas to it. Like, well, by design for projection mapping.
Yeah, and
Really
that
interesting.
Hong Kong castle gets a lot of heat. I know a lot of people are kind of like, oh
Hey,
man,
at least it's
like
not ours. They could
yeah,
whatever they want, right? You know,
exactly,
I've
exactly.
seen it in person. I went there. I think in 2013. So I got to see it, and trust me, it's bizarre to see our castle out there.
Yeah.
It's really surreal. But you know, it's not the original, and I think it's interesting. And now it's better. Now ours is the only one.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's how I feel too. Like our castle is the smallest, so at least let ours be unique. So now with Hong Kong getting their expanded, like I don't know what the official name is, Storybook Princess Castle, whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad that their castle is different, and we have now again a unique castle. I think.
Well, we have the original. We have the only one that Walt Disney walked through. So
Exactly.
that's okay.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate you, man, for coming on.
Anytime, man. Hit me up.
Definitely, definitely. And before we go, if you can let everyone know where they can find you on social media and
yeah, of course. I'm very active on Twitter, Tartar Sauce, and then I do Instagram a lot too. But it kind of went from my design to it's mostly just family pictures now. But if you want to check me out on Instagram, I'm there too, Tartar Sauce. And you know, I'm ever since I don't know, a few months ago, I'm diving in deep to my full-time business of my own theme park design and that kind of stuff. So check me out at samcarterart.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sam, and thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys so much, and subscribe to Sam's YouTube channel, and check him out on Twitter and Instagram. And thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.
All right, see you guys.